Good morning all. At times, it is very difficult to connect on the online mode to various centers as far as psychological bonding is concerned. But fortunately, I have some participants in this studio also. So that will be a more connected thing. However, I will try to communicate whatever I want to say today and hope we have an interactive session. Basically, I will cover embedded systems for IoT, and within that, especially I will cover the Zigbee wireless sensor network standards. So when we talk about IoT, this term is very novice as far as scientific R&D is concerned. This was just coined around 1999. And whatever has happened in this field has happened in those 16, 17 years only. It's a very nascent term as far as the field of science is concerned. So, and every word in it has a meaning. Internet of Things. So, today the basic outline of my talk would be introduction as obvious, followed by various visions of the IoT paradigm. I have taken up certain research papers which I have tried to summarize in my talk. So obviously that will be a good starting point for you to do some work in this field if you want. Then the various enabling technologies. Naturally, people could have thought, in fact Charles Babbage thought of computers in the 1700s and 1600s. But at that time it was not possible to have those things. Those enabling technologies were not available. Today we can think of various sensors interconnected to each other just because there are enabling technologies available which make it possible. So theoretically a lot of things were thought, but since today we have the enabling technologies, we have the data accessibility, we have the mobile devices which are ubiquitously present. People may be illiterate, but they are able to talk on a mobile and using a smartphone. So that transformation has brought in behavioral enablement as well as technological enablement for the things. Then the various application areas of IoT. You all are hearing a lot about the smart city projects. You all are hearing a lot about interconnected world. We are having refrigerators who are able to self-diagnose themselves right now in our houses. Then the various architectural approaches to IoT. Within this, I will cover in detail the Zigbee protocol, and then the open research challenges which are available in this domain on which you can work, and finally conclusion. So it's a long session. Hope we will keep it interactive. Is there a break in between? 11 to 11:30. So we have 1 hour now. Now basically what is IoT? So it is Internet of Things. It was first coined by Kevin Aston in 1999, and at that time the major enablement which was there was RFID for this type of domain. So he defined it as a novel paradigm garnering which was garnering maximum attention those days. The underlying idea is the ubiquitous presence of a variety of things or objects, which can be a RFID tag, which can be a sensor, which can be an actuator or mobile phones, which are uniquely identifiable and are able to interconnect with each other and cooperate with their neighbors to reach common goals. Now you see there are a lot of unique keywords out there. Number one is uniquely identifiable. Right now for internet addressing what we are using is IP version 4. IP version 6 has come in, but it is in the nascent stage. Now with IP version 4 you have just 32 bits. So it was okay for having interconnected computers and all those things. But when you think about interconnected devices, you have umpteen number of devices in every single household, and if you think of all of them to be interconnected and then on to a web, then you need a very sufficient space. So it is hopeful that with IP version 6, which has 128-bit addressing, this problem will be solved. Then able to interact with each other and cooperate with their neighbors. Now, with the sheer volume of data which will be transpired, the requirements of space, memory, then the battery hungerness of those things, there are innumerous issues. And then finally cooperation. So there should be a constructive cooperation. It should not interfere, or for example, right now also, if you are on a mobile call and something comes on the landline itself. So in that type of noisy environment, there are a lot of issues. Now, another definition which has come in for IoT is that it creates an intelligent, invisible network fabric. Naturally, it's Internet of Things. So at times it will be normally not visible to a layman or some simple person. That can be sensed, controlled, as well as programmed. IoT-enabled products employ embedded technology that allow them to communicate directly or indirectly with each other or the internet. Then another recent definition is that it is an umbrella term which covers everything. Is an umbrella term used to refer to the global network interconnecting smart objects. Now when the thing smart comes in, then you have a sensing part as well as a actuation part. By means of extended internet technologies, the set of supporting technologies necessary to realize this vision, which includes RFID tags, sensors, actuators, as well as an ensemble of applications and services leveraging such technologies. Naturally, you need a lot of application support, service support, and then there are several other issues of security again. Security is also very important. If I am able to jam everything in your house with a single click, then you can imagine what can happen. Now, this is basically the hype cycle for emerging technologies. This is basically this graph, this Gartner hype cycle is basically a predictor of what is going to come in near future, and it has it predicts the transition time for various technologies. As you can see that the various stages in the hype cycle are: first, there is an innovation trigger, which is followed by the peak of inflated expectations. यदि हम commercially बात करें, right now we are feeling peak in case of startups. Flipkart, Snapdeal, they are bringing. So beyond this, 6 months ago, the expectations was very high. But then a level of maturity is achieved. Lot of runners in the race go out. Only those who are able to survive in the long run, they sustain, and then another period comes which is trough disillusionment. Suddenly an army of people or army of enthusiasts start thinking, it is not worth hoping. So then after that, a slope of enlightenment comes in, and finally a plateau of productivity arrives. So the various technologies or various promising technologies nowadays are shown here. As you can see, it's a bit small, but here you can see quantum computing, 4D printing. Now 3D printing has reached their plateau of productivity, but 4D printing is coming in. Then the color of the dots again depicts the expectation of number of years in which this technology is expected to reach the plateau of productivity. So in case of IoT platform, which is just below gesture control devices, you can see that virtual reality these days is in the slope of enlightenment. These days you are having commercial products, 2000, 2500 rupees, which can be augmented with your mobile phone to have a virtual reality experience. So it has to a bit become a stable technology. It is now, in some days you will find virtual reality products each and everywhere. So for the IoT platform, it is expected that within a span of 5 to 10 years, this rate of movement can be slower or faster. For example, in case of autonomous vehicles, although it has reached at the peak of inflated expectations, but still it is thought that more than 10 years will take for it to reach the plateau of productivity. So this is one of the most promising statistic which is considered worldwide as on date for the case of technology expectations or promiseness or whatever you say. So in this IoT platform is expected that in the span of 5 to 10 years, you will reach a level that it will be prevalent everywhere and everyone will be using it. Now, as on date, whatever the literature says, it proposes 3 visions of IoT basically. One is the things oriented vision. We can classify the literature into these 3 streams basically. One is the things oriented vision, second is the internet oriented vision, and the third is semantic oriented vision. We all have read C, and syntax and semantic was an important part there. So in the things oriented vision, it is thought that the enabling things will aggregate and then push for some IoT revolution. Whereas in the internet oriented vision, it is thought that internet would be the key enabler that will provide you support for such things to come up. And finally, the semantic oriented vision means that instead of a function oriented thought process, it is more meaning oriented, and it is usually at the top. Right now these algorithms, if you something you text into the Google, it at times understands things better than you. Once your search is complete, you even think that you could have rephrased the things in that manner and a better search result would have come in. Then there are a lot of predictive algorithms. I met someone at some place, for example in election duty. At some moment of time in that duration, I talked to him or her. But after 2 years, a friendship recommendation comes in my Facebook account that she may be your friend or he may be your friend. How come? These predictive algorithms vouch for semantic data, and on that basis, they go to that extent that they are able to predict that this person might have been with you at some point of time, and then it gives you a possible or best alternative that this person may be known to you. So we will discuss these 3 visions. Now, the things oriented vision is the genesis of things word in the IoT term. Now, with the purview of these things, naturally these were the first technologies which enabled or which helped to make things happen the way we are thinking of a wireless sensor network or IoT system these days. The RFID technology, near field communication and wireless SAN, wireless identification and sensing platforms, and these are commercially available solutions these days. If you go to the Decathlon, even a 100 rupee piece has a RFID tag, and it is then there is barcoding systems, radio identifiers as well. Things have become so smart that for example, you might have gone to Alante. There is one mall in Chandigarh. So if you go to any showroom, for example, the Tata one, West Side. Now what people used to do was they started using the West Side store as a storage hub. Whatever you carry with you, you put into the and you are free now. Now you roam the entire mall. Whenever you want to go, you take it back. So what they did over the time was, in the baggage slips which they give in, they also put a radio tag into that. Now the moment you come out of the showroom with that baggage tag, the sensors installed at the gate will recognize you, and they will not allow you to leave the store without leaving your belongings. So it is serving two purposes. Number one, the safety of the store is ensured. You are not leaving anything which is vulnerable. It might be the case that you leave something which has some ballistics in it. And secondly, you are not using the facilities of the store just for storage at the cost of the store. Then at the top, then there are certain things called spines. These are the objects that can be tracked through space and time throughout its lifetime, and that will be sustainable, enhanceable, and uniquely identifiable. Mostly these are passive devices. They don't need any battery to run, but whenever a sensor is in the vicinity of that passive device, it is able to identify that there is something which is off, and they have a unique code, and in that manner they will harvest some energy or either from the sensor or in some manner. And then there are smart items. When I call smart, it's like visual in case of programming paradigm. Whenever there is basic is a character oriented language, user interface, and when I call it visual basic, it becomes a GUI sort of it. So similarly, smart is that it is able to sense and actuate. Then the second is the internet oriented vision. Naturally, the sensors and actuators at the endpoints is one aspect of IoT, and the various technologies work which is going into that aspect is very important. At the same time, to make that system scalable, you naturally need some sort of network, and redefining the network was naturally not possible. RFID could not grow beyond that limit. So somehow a need was there that internet becomes adaptive to that framework, so that the scalability of IoT is achieved. So lot of work is needed in that domain also, that the internet is adaptive to the things approach. So genesis of the internet word in IoT. Now basically globally what happens is that development of standards is never taken up by a single agency. Usually it happens, whatever terms you hear right now, either Zigbee or Bluetooth or WiMAX or Wi-Fi, they have not been developed by a single agency or a single standards body. Naturally, how technology shapes up is some sort of science comes in, and then certain agencies like ITU or IEEE, they work on the basic or physical hardware standards of that particular technology. Once that is come in, to develop the middleware on which your applications will run, for that, keeping in view the promiseness of the underlying technology, an industry forum comes up, which is basically because if you have to pursue some technology at the global level, see how much investment that goes into it. So naturally for that investment, you need a life cycle of the technology in which you reach a break even, and naturally you make profits. Then only any company will pursue a technology. Now to reduce that risk of obsolescence in the fast time, what companies do is they form a sort of forum for pursuing that technology. For example, in case of Bluetooth, there is one Bluetooth SIG, Bluetooth Special Interest Group. It is nothing but a industry conglomeration. All the names which are supporting Bluetooth as on date are members of that Bluetooth SIG. It has a board, it has a working group which works on the underlying technology. You might be knowing that Bluetooth is at the top of 802.5.1. 802.5.15.1, sorry, is a IEEE standard, which has defined the radio and other requirements for a ad hoc networking type of situation, ad hoc data networks type of situation. So on that core radio or baseband, which you call technically, the middleware layers or protocols have been designed by Bluetooth SIG, and they are ratified by all the companies which are part of the Bluetooth SIG. Why? Because in this manner, only the interoperability of the products in the long run, integrity of the Bluetooth radio in the long run, everything can be ensured. When you see a Bluetooth logo on any product, for example, a lot of things have a Bluetooth logo. That means that it is following the certain standards set aside by the Bluetooth SIG, which are enforceable on all the companies which are coming up with Bluetooth products. So naturally, your product becomes interoperable with the entire gamut of Bluetooth products which are in the market. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult. So this SIG type of mechanism is the standard procedure or standard in case of development of such technologies. Similarly, we will discuss Zigbee. For Zigbee, there is Zigbee Alliance. And then at the top, when the applications are developed, they are vendor specific. Each and every vendor comes in with unique applications for their particular, but the underlying stack is the unique or same. So similarly, here also IP for Smart Objects Alliance has been formed, which is an alliance to promote IP as the network technology for connecting smart objects. So the smart objects will have all those things which are part of the things vision, and to connect these smart objects globally through a cloud or something, for that IP will act as a standard. Then there is another concept called Internet file, which follows the approach of reducing the complexity of the IP stack to achieve a protocol designed to route IP over anything. Then lastly, another thing which is going on is Web of Things approach, wherein they are trying to integrate web with the sensor networks. Now the third is the semantic oriented approach, which is going in research. So here it is the genesis of both internet and things world of the IoT. And basically the technologies which people are working on in this domain are on a convergence of both these things. At the top of where both these things converge, there. So if you have to change anything, you change in that domain, and there is abstraction for internet as well as things. You don't need to change things at the internet or IP level and change things at the RFID level. But if you implement some change at the semantic level, then they will be automatically implemented into the things. So the maintainability of the IoT system will be eased if this approach is followed. So it means disruptive level of innovation into the ICT world, and the issues regarding representation, storage, interconnection, search, etc. That's what I'm saying, that you are at a level of abstraction that makes things easy for a lot of end devices. How? For example, a very good example is that if you go to a shop and ask a person to do some job, does he tells you technically that what are the technicalities involved in that work? For example, photocopy. He might have 10 photocopying machines. He might have issues with one machine. He might print with certain machine. But he is an abstract. He has an encapsulation or abstraction level layer for you. You give him the original document. You give him some money, and in exchange, he return you the original document with the photocopied object. Now you're not concerned about how things are going on at the shop. So similarly, with these approaches, you will have a lot of ease in these issues: representation of the data, storage, as well as interconnection and search. And semantic technologies are going to play a key role there, because data is going to be massive there. The amount of or volume of data will be massive. Now these are the various research streams basically which are going on, or technologies which are available in this field. In the things oriented vision, you are aware with RFID, you're aware with NFC, near field communication is coming in most of the high-end mobile phones right now. Then smart items, wireless sensors and actuators, and so on. Now there are certain overlapping areas also for the internet oriented vision and things oriented vision. For example, IP connectivity for anything, and then communicating things. The research is going on these areas basically as a, because communicating the data, basically the framework is you communicate the household data to some coordinator or a central device which is available in the home, and then that central device basically communicates with the internet over a certain 6LoWPAN or other protocol. Now for these I discussed, I think IPSO, this is if you can read, they would have come up with certain framework, they may be proposing certain standards, lot of industries would be part of it, and if things move on smoothly, then they will invest in that technology or products, commercial products in that technology in future. Because lot of standards die in the way also. You might have heard about UWB, ultra wideband, or BIVRI, you heard? So these were the protocols which died in between or amalgamated into other protocols. BIVRI was basically a WSN protocol being developed by Nokia. In the meantime, Nokia went down and then it amalgamated into UWB and later on into Bluetooth. Now they are all part of the, these days you are hearing a lot about Bluetooth low energy. Okay, so Bluetooth low energy is nothing but that BIVRI protocol. It was unable to sustain in the long run, and over the time it became part of the Bluetooth. However, Bluetooth was originally designed for something else, but today we will discuss those domains also. So then internet oriented vision and semantic oriented vision have a merger in smart semantic middleware. Naturally, semantic algorithms has more to do with software part. It is less into the hardware. And then purely technologies which are being pursued in the semantic domain are reasoning over data, semantic execution environments, how to ensure that things are taken correctly. For example, these days you have lot of transliteration softwares, lot of text to speech softwares, but the way they do it, you see their maturity. But now over the time things are coming in which are able to do it exactly also. There are certain companies which can in real time can convert the news to one language to another language. Now see the amount of investment or amount of ease which is being acquired by the companies. For example, a news channel, just by using one software, it can air the news content in one language, and it can have 42 channels of 42 languages, just with the help of certain semantic or certain text to speech software which is able to do it correctly. Google is doing it right now, but the way it is doing is not very promising right now. But over the time, it is expected that that also will become very. So you talk, I am talking just in English and easily in 42 languages. Right now, 42, I have one tool which can easily do in 42 language in perfect manner. So then, so basically the marriage of all those three visions is Internet of Things. It's a very promising research paper, Trozzi et al. If you go through it, you can find all the things which are available in this domain right now. Now, again the various enabling technologies which are required to achieve the IoT paradigm. So at the base you need identification, sensing and communication technologies. So here you have RFID tags. These are more or less common, not at the Indian companies level, but MNCs, they are applying it everywhere. Then the wireless sensor networks. So WSN is a very promising area these days. A lot of protocols are coming in, a lot of technologies are coming in, a lot of secondary stage technologies are coming in. For example, you all have heard Bluetooth, no? Then we have Zigbee. Then we have Wi-Fi. This is basically based on now originally this was meant for the WSNs. This was meant for wireless PAN type of applications, ad hoc networking type of applications. This was meant to replace the lane wires. And then again you have WiMAX. Huh? Now due to the rush towards IoT, what Bluetooth has done is, with version 4.0, naturally ad hoc networking type of applications have more power hungry solution, whereas a pure personal area network type of solution which has WSN in mind will need to have certain sensors which are very their power hunger is very low, because you can change, you are ready to charge your mobile every day, yes, but if you need to charge your TV remote every day, it won't go well with you. So the original radios or original hardware, initial hardware proposed by IEEE for these purposes has had different priorities. Here power was a major consideration. Here power was not a very major consideration. But when Bluetooth SIG developed this product on the top of this, and Zigbee Alliance developed this product on the top of this, Wi-Fi Alliance developed Wi-Fi on the top of this, these are actually trademarks of those individual alliances. Now, today Bluetooth is ubiquitous. It is at least available in each and every mobile phone, which is in practice right now. With this commercial prowess, it is trying to enter both these domains. How? It is not possible with the radio which has been proposed in this standard. So right now Bluetooth is not compliant with this. They have added in the physical layer additional radios which can cater to the requirement of 802.15.4, means huge number of devices, mesh networking support, as well as very low power requirement. So this is what is Bluetooth low energy part. And then, have you used Wi-Fi Direct on your mobile phone? There is one feature called Wi-Fi Direct. With that, with Bluetooth, it was possible to transfer a file in some seconds. But with Wi-Fi Direct, what happens is, It moves in a flash. So here again, that Wi-Fi alliance is also very successful commercially. This thing is not very successful commercially right now. You might not have heard or might not have seen Zigbee enabled products a lot. So Wi-Fi alliance have again tweaked its radio to entertain this type of services. But with this it was not possible. So right now Zigbee is ratified with 802.15.4. Bluetooth is not ratified with 802.15.1. And with the new radios, it is able to achieve these speeds as well as it is able to achieve the low latency and low power requirement of this protocol also. So then there are RFID sensor networks. However, the limit of these networks is usually in a small area. So then you need a internet protocol bridge to make it scalable. Then in the middleware technologies, here basically what we are seeing is a service oriented architecture. So what is basically to understand architecture, the best model which has been proposed till date as far as I think is OSI model. That helps you to understand in the best way how things move between two machines at the end-to-end level as well as, are you aware with or can we discuss OSI model? So it's a basically 7-layer model, na? At the bottom is the PHY, over it is data link, then network layer, transport layer, कौन सा? TCP, transport layer, then session, presentation and application. Now on the second machine or at the destination, similarly you have 7 layers. Now what is the protocol? Set of rules. Yes. So we have two set of rules out here. One is protocol and the another is interface. What is interface? The set of rules which govern the communication between two layers in a hierarchy. Whereas, and naturally this communication is physical. And then your protocols which is the set of rules which governs the communication between two peers. And naturally, this communication is not physical, it is at the logical level. And how it is implemented? You have a data packet moving from here to here, and at every stage you get a header or footer appended. At the destination level, the corresponding layer detaches that header or footer, generates the information which is available in that header and footer which is meant for it. The way communication happens in offices, a director writes to a director and the letter goes to the entire channel. The physical layer is basically the post office or something which is at the hardware level. Now their link is not end to end, so naturally these three lower layers are not also end to end. At the top, things are end-to-end because at the after transport layer, things reaches the destination. Up to that, it will be on a different hop. Letter emanates from my office, goes to the sector 30 post office, then sector 17 post office, then Delhi, then Chennai, whatever, and then finally it reaches IIT Madras. Their final logical communication is between these two applications. Now, if you think logically, to ensure these things happen in an efficient manner, we need abstraction at every layer. Why? Because without abstraction, things will be badly loaded. Abstraction makes things simpler as well as scalable. So similarly, in case of our IoT technologies, it is thought of right now that the service-oriented architecture would be the best, wherein services are at the top with which applications interact, and the actual hardware is away through certain other layers. So naturally at the bottom, you have these identification, sensing and communication communication hardware. At the top of this, you have certain object abstraction. What that object abstraction does is, it is like in C++ you have object which has certain features as well as functions. How it interact with the outer world? पेन है कोई? ये दोनों ही नहीं चल रहे. So that object abstraction layer basically it creates an encapsulated thing for the actual hardware, which exposes its facilities to the world, the services which it can provide, and the world, which I mean is the upper layers, interact with that abstraction to make things easy for the upper layers. This is what is happening in everything. If you go into computer programming also, previously we used to write code in C. Right now you are writing in .NET or Java. So there you had system calls, kernel calls. You are very near to the hardware. You were even able, through a wrong command, you can disrupt that hardware. But right now, at the level of abstraction, at the top of those system calls and kernel calls, you have libraries. At the top of their libraries, then you have again certain level of abstraction, and you are using those abstract functions, which has all the safeguards built in to ensure that you are not disturbing the hardware, as well as you're using the hardware in the efficient manner. However, with the every layer added, we are adding certain baggage. Naturally, we are adding certain baggage. So the requirement of memory storage, that is also increasing. Then again, due to the availability of technology, it is possible to have that. For example, when I was in college, 32 MB RAM PC was a price catch. The maximum which I saw in college, and I'm not a 50-year-old guy, I'm just 40 years old. I did my graduation and all those things in 1998, 99. And at that time, 32 MB computer. Today, if I buy a phone with 1 GB RAM also, it's outdated. You have 6 GB RAM mobile phones right now. And with memory capacity of around 128 GB and more, in fact. 256 GB is also coming in. So this is the technology scenario. When IoT was coined in 99, 16 MB was the standard. Today, that is the status. So then you have a service management layer. The abstract object gives you the type of services which are available with that particular object. And then at the service management layer, you create that seamless things that the layers above it are easily able to use those services. Layers beneath it are able to interact with the top layer with ease. And finally, at the top of the service-oriented architecture is service composition, which basically interacts directly with the applications. This is all I was talking about actually. At the bottom you have the objects. Then over it you have an object abstraction layer, which provides you with the services which are available with those objects. Then you have service management layer, wherein composition of services is also available. For example, a particular fire sensing system, an integrated fire sensing system will have fire sensors as well as water actuators. Now the services offered by fire sensor and naturally the services offered by the actuators are usually required within a distance difference of very short time. Because if you sense fire, naturally you need actuation. Now, at the service management layer, if I create a service called stop fire, so that will be basically using the services of sensors as well as the actuators, and that complex service would be seen at the upper layers as a single entity. Rather than thinking at the top about first sensing and then programming to act, it's better that I have a single service wherein the moment I sense something, I'm able to act. And at the top there are applications. Now a very important issue which is lot talked about these days and you can see it as a vertical slice through everything. That is management of trust, privacy and security. It's a huge issue. For example, over the years you might have heard about Lokpal Bill. That was a very famous Lokpal. There was a very good movement in the country for that, and then it came in. Then things came for the disclosure of assets of the government employees, and you might be hearing in newspapers, or it might not be interest for you, might not be reading that again and again that last date or critical date or cutoff date for disclosing that is being extended. What is the reason? This is one usual thought process, that they don't want to disclose. The other thought process is, what I ask as a government servant is that what is the security of that data of mine? You're exposing it to everyone. If someone asks that in RTI and then start tracking me, what I will do? What is the security? Where is the security angle? And that is the reason government is extending it. Until and unless government comes up with a proper framework to ensure the security of that data, because it is a huge threat for me, I'm disclosing what I have to a body, and then there is no system in place to secure it. It's a huge risk for me. For example, I'm living in Chandigarh, it is okay. But if I'm living in some vulnerable area, I'm living in Assam or interior Assam, then it's a huge risk for me. Certain people will come up to know what I have and they will start asking something. Natural. So that is why it is being extended. It is not that they don't want to disclose. They have been disclosing it since years in the manner it is being asked, but it's much more detail. Each and every point is coming in that, but still that security framework is concerning the government also. So the trust, privacy and security management is a huge task, because with this pervasive level of availability of sensors into my house, wherein I have an automated internet enabled key, I have internet enabled mobile, computer, fridge, water sensors, everything is automated, then somehow that is breached, what will happen? I'm nowhere. Even I can't open, if some hacker has changed the configuration of my internet enabled key, if I can't even open my house. So now these are the various application areas which are being thought of in the domain of IoT. In the Indian context, smart city projects, they are all basically themed around to have smart sensors for things. Chandigarh had these things a long back ago, because you had water meters out here, which has been a standard feature since 1965 when Chandigarh was formed. But now the world is moving towards smart metering, prepaid electricity, all those type of things. So in transportation and logistics, it's a huge advantage. If IoT comes in, previously those who were in supply business, until unless mobile phones have come in, supplying business was a very difficult task. But with mobile phones, you see, someone has gone somewhere to supply, a new order comes in from a nearby office, he can pick up the things from nearby market and then supply. Assisted driving. These days, if you go to a big city with the Google Map or those type of other apps, It's very easy. Today, 70% of the drivers who are driving Ola and Uber in Chandigarh don't know Chandigarh. Just with the help of that app, they are able to move in. Even we do so at times. If I go to Delhi, naturally I don't know where to go. But in that case, that is the most promising assistant I have. Mobile ticketing, ये तो हम सब यूज कर ही रहे हैं. फर्दर इसमें अभी राइट नाउ जो चेकिंग वाला पार्ट है वो सब पेपर वाला है. ओवर द टाइम that can also integrate into a seamless system. Environmental monitoring, real-time monitoring has become a norm these days. But with these smoke-like of situations redundantly coming in, you had the need for actuation systems also. One scientist in my office is working on those systems, those electrostatic spraying systems, which are able to remove these smoke type of situations. And so in that scenario, if you have an integrated system, the moment it is being sensed, it can be removed with those. But huge systems are needed for that is a different aspect. But we have that technology capability which is coming in for meeting these situations. Then augmented maps. Again, virtual reality, synthetic vision. Synthetic vision is very important in case of aviation. If time permits, I will discuss that head-up display project which I am working on. Therein, those things are very important. When we are landing, when you are taking off, under foggy situations, under other type of situations, then augmented reality is very important, because aircrafts are fitted with all the state-of-art sensors, GPS with accuracy, everything they have. So even with, if you have a blank vision in front of you, just with the help of those sensing systems, they are able to descend and land. Then in case of healthcare, tracking, इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में ये तो अभी थोड़ा दूर का काम है, बिकॉज आवर हेल्थ सिस्टम इज वेरी वीक. ट्रैकिंग, identification and authentication, data collection as well as sensing. Sensing, it means that for example in many developed countries they have centralized systems wherein the elderly patients who are living at home are tracked regularly through a centralized hospital, and whenever certain for example their regular BP data, regular sugar levels, all that can be checked from home and are updated into the database at the centralized location, and whatever is required to be done in that light, then they have motion sensors inbuilt in the home. If there is no motion for a particular, more than a particular quanta, then alerts are created to the local. Those type of systems are existing. Then in the smart environment space, comfortable homes and offices, industrial plants, smart museums and gyms. For example, you might have visited that Virasat-e-Khalsa near, have you gone to? Near Anandpur Sahib. So there you're given sound systems, and the way you move into that museum, the story changes onto your sound system. With the help of your location, if you are seeing a particular painting, the vocal you are hearing is relevant to that particular painting. You move to the next one, the context changes, the story changes. Then personal and social. Historical queries, losses and thefts. Finally, futuristic ones are robot taxi, driverless taxi, that Google car and all those things. City information model, which would be quite useful. Right now also you are hearing FM to have an idea about in which part there is more traffic and all those things. Even Google Maps help you. And then enhanced game rooms. These are luxuries which are coming in, but over the time they are going to become a reality in near future. So the entire panorama in Indian context, smart city project has lot of opportunities for IoTs. Basically the industry, the NASSCOM has set up a center for IoT, Center for Excellence in IoT. because they are seeing a huge business opportunity in this. Smart metering, smart water systems, waste disposal, everywhere lot is required and lot can be done with the help of IoT applications. Now, what are the constraints in this domain? Naturally, one is the bandwidth constraint. So availability, omnipresent or ubiquitous availability of network is an issue, and that is required. IoT has a lot of applications in defense also. But the problem is that the sensors are being installed in the areas which are either not inhabited or are exposed to enemies. Right now, Government of India is also working on integrated border management concept. अभी जो border management है, that is physically divided. Some part is seen by BSF, some part is seen by ITBP, some part is seen by Army. So their approaches to implement things are in isolation. Army has different approach, it employs different technologies. Then BSF has its own approaches. But with the help of these technologies, that integrated border management is thought of at a very big level. Ministry of Home Affairs has especially set up a working group for this. So that with the help of various modality of sensing systems, it can be cameras, it can be infrared cameras, it can be other things, and with the backend connectivity, they can come up with an integrated border management solution. Thereby, all our enemy boundaries are safe. So that is being thought of. Now, the networks are unreliable. That is the issue. Limited resources. Naturally, if I want a sensor into my 100 rupee t-shirt, it has a cost. But that cost should be so low. Even we usually say that HUD is required in cars also. The device which we developed for a fighter aircraft is required in car also. But the cost of the device we developed for aircraft is around 70 lakhs, single unit. So can it be implemented into car? Definitely not in that form. It can be implemented when it becomes, because the cost of aircraft is around 5% of the total cost of the aircraft. So when I develop something which is around 2 to 3% of the cost of the car, because in case of aircraft, price sensitivity is low. But in case of a car, what is the average is the most first criteria we look for. Hai? Average is one of the most important feature that we look for in a car. So naturally, the return which I am getting, the cost which is adding to the car, that is very important. So in case of wireless sensor networks, the power, memory and CPU processing power at end nodes are very low, just because for the reason that I want to keep the cost low. And at times it becomes a constraint. However, with the density of the sensors, because naturally in case of WSN, I always go for redundancy. The more redundant I am, the more safe I am. Then extremely high scale networks. You're thinking of every house with umpteen number of sensors. And how many households are there in Chandigarh itself? How many households are there in the Punjab, then India, and then at the global level? So the service part, the other things at the top of it make things very complex. So these are the basic constraints which somewhere are deterring the IoT, and people are working on it. New and new things are coming in almost daily. Lot of industries see promising future in this. They are working on it through different associations and alliances, and that is why the Gartner Hype Cycle says that within 5 to 10 years, the IoT systems will reach to a level of maturity wherein it will start producing things. However, that hype cycle changes every year. depending on the progress made during this year, because it is basically a projection. Now this is it is basically from a commercial point of view, or the panorama of IoT, wherein the things are at the top and below this you have the internet. So various enabling protocols or platforms which are required in the internet domain, as well as whatever is available in the things domain. You have life safety, home security applications, tax and tracker type of applications, home automation applications, automotive, naturally, communication, lifestyle and entertainment, then wearables. There is another application is that if I go to a movie, in the movie hall there are around 200 pupils. Right now, if I want to enjoy a Hollywood movie and I don't know English, I have to wait till the dubbed version comes in. Now, like what I told you regarding that Virasat-e-Khalsa, you have individual earphones wherein you can select the language through your interactive pad which is available in the movie hall. Then in a single show, people can see the movie in 10 different languages or 42 different languages or whatever. In your, because the picture part is same for all the cases. Then wearables. These are also quite common these days. I usually move around in the office a lot of time just because to ensure that how many steps I have taken in the day. In the evening, I am happy that I have done 4 kilometers today. My requirement, my cholesterol levels will be maintained. Then fitness and healthcare, industrial infrastructure. Lot of applications are there in the industrial setup also. For example, in a chemical industry, wherein you are dealing with lot of chemicals, lot of pressure, lot of heat, you have gauges everywhere. Right now, these gauges are singleton. However, there are systems like SCADA or PCS wherein a lot of automation is there, but that is company specific, Honeywell specific or GE specific. But with these type of open source systems, you can have a central coordinator which can communicate with all those gauges, can control things single-handed. Then toys. You were used to have times when kids used to get very less toys. 1, 2 toys we used to have in our childhood. But is this the case today? Today, my kids, their clothes have lesser space, the toys have more space, and they are filled up like dump. And every next day, whenever you go somewhere, they want it. Even birthdays have become big events. It used to be a very low-key event in our childhood. But today, parents are investing everything. They are planning for months. So even birthday gifts make up so lot huge pile that you are unable to manage it for the entire year. So toy industry has also progressed a lot. And today you see all the concepts which used to come with commercial things, in a small scale they are coming into toys. Radio cars, everything. They have gyros, they have position sensors, everything there. So again, it's a huge market. In the domains of cloud, again, cloud has made life very easy. In CSI, I have 3 offices basically. I sit at 3 different places. My R&D part is different. I have to see the IPR coordinator's office as well as the business development group, some part I have. Previously, 3 computers, I did something there. Now Dropbox and those things have become very common. See the level at which they make your life easy. You don't need to concern where you are sitting. Just need to open your Dropbox, and then that has come in with cloud. So in this area also, cloud computing is helping a lot with all these things, like app marketplace. You have home automation solutions on the cloud, controllers and hubs, IoT operating systems, TinyOS and all those things. Then development framework on the cloud, big data analytics, development tools, and then distributed apps. All those things are happening in the cloud platforms. Then you have APIs or cloud services. What is an API? Application programming interface. It is nothing which sits at the top of the library. Another level of abstraction. From system calls, we went on to libraries. From libraries, we have started using APIs, application programming interfaces. Today, whatever application you develop, you are developing on the API. You're not using the libraries of the system actually nowadays. Then in this domain, you have databases, storages, processing, security, as well as domain name servers. And then finally, hardware infrastructure. Now the promising thing which is coming is Wi-Fi. After Wi-Fi, till Wi-Fi you have 2.4 gigahertz channel for communication. But if my two lights start communicating, so that will be at the speed of light. And Wi-Fi systems are becoming reality. Means in our lifetime you will see those things. That through a, but right now there are issues like scattering and all those things are there. So they are at the experimental level. But with Wi-Fi, the speed will be 10 to 100 times of what is going on today. Now, from the architectural point of view, you can think of 4 layers for the IoTs. You have application at the top, core networking at the end, services in the middle, multi-edge services beneath that, and at the bottom there are embedded systems and sensors. So the various issues which relate to these things are hosting management, IP MPLS, quality of service, multicast, security, network services, mobile packet core. Then in the field area network part, you have 3G, 4G, Wi-Fi, Ethernet and PLC. And at the bottom, you have smart and less smart things, vehicles, machine, wired or wireless, all this. And the various issues in these things or various technologies in these are, for applications, we are thinking of centralized intelligence, and that is achievable with cloud computing. For core networking and services, distributed intelligence is being thought of. And in that domain, fog computing is coming up. And in the field area network part, distributed systems are being thought of. And the issues which in this domain are of computing and storage. And then at the bottom, there are RFIDs as well as wireless sensor networks. And since we are going to concentrate on one particular thing, so you have IEEE 802.15.4 or